Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Albin Burke, Director of our Center for Psychological Services and Psychological and Career Services. Here at UJ, and I have the pleasure to introduce our author tonight and also to lead the panel discussion and the questions from the floor. So it's always difficult to introduce people, especially not to do it in a gray, academic, boring way. So I want to tell Philani a story, and I told him I'm going to tell him a story. So Theodora last week gives me the copy of the book so that I can read this, and I take it home. And I leave the book on the table. And my wife comes in, and suddenly she's smiling and she says, I want to read this book. I know this person. Because you know why? You sold her books on her way to Wits because she works at Wits. Do you know that my 5-year-old has 10 of the books that she bought from you? And I actually wanted to bring them to be autographed. So you were famous in my house long before I actually had to come and speak about you. But I want to use that as a means of introduction because it shows you how people can touch other people's lives in an unknowing way. And I don't want to steal his thunder, but when I read the book, there are a couple of things that came out for me in this book. And you can agree or disagree with me later. The one thing that struck me is the evil side of human beings, the dark side of people, and how cruel we can be to each other. If you read the book, you will see what life he led and how cruel people were to him. But there's a flip side to it as well. It also shows the kind side, the nurturing side of the human, which you were fortunate to experience. So it's that side as well. Then there's another one, chance events in our life. And whether you want to ascribe it to a deity or whatever the case may be, sometimes and very few times, something good comes your way. And it's about taking that, recognizing when you get a gap and taking that gap. The story here for the young people, I want to speak to the youngsters, it's about substance abuse. And the best way to overcome a substance abuse, the only way to overcome a substance abuse is never to start using. You agree? You said it in your own words, you said it. To never start. Never start using the substance. Philani, and this is for the youngsters, a word of warning before you get involved in this. And Philani says in his own book, he writes it here, he says, when he started using, he said to himself, I've got this. I think those were your words. I've got this under control. It won't run away with me. And it ran away with you. And he's one of the few success stories to come out of the substance abuse. Okay. And I think that when you read this book, to see what substances do to you, okay, and you will tell yourself, I've got this. I've got this under control. Okay. And then one day you wake up sleeping under the flyover, okay, no money, no friends, because that's the other thing that you notice, that you lost your friends in the process, no family to support you. And when you wake up in that situation, then you realize how far you've spiraled down. Okay. And the word of warning from this book, and I encourage all of you to read this, the word of warning for me in this book is, don't start. Because you will do the whole trip. You will start off under a flyover somewhere. You will do the route to a hospital, being admitted there because of overdoses and things. You will pay a visit to Sterkfontein Hospital. You will pay a visit to a psychiatric ward, which you need to read. And Philani, you described the psychiatric ward accurately. It's like a prison. Okay. You will do that. Okay. And if you're fortunate, and if you have the resilience and the talent that Philani has, then you have a chance to get out of it. But I'm not going to say anything more. Philani, over to you.
Thanks. Hello, good people. My name is Philani, as you've already said. So today is all about this book. Man, what more can I say? I mean, this is just, it's all about like my journey, like things that I've seen, like how drug abuse messed up my life and losing everything that I worked hard for, and I ended up living under Nelson Mandela Bridge, and it's just not like very nice place. You know, his book should have been, it could have, because it's my life story. I mean, all the things that I've seen on the streets. I mean, some of you would wonder if it's all about like, because you know, there's a lot of things happens on the streets. So why is this book so thin? It's because I lost most part of this book. It's just like rewritten again and again and again, because it was like journals every day, every things that I saw every day. I used to just get back to under the bridge before getting high, or maybe while after getting high, and just start like writing like how my day was today. But unfortunately, it's staying like this because most part of it, some of you may have seen like rats on the street. So we used to live with rats. So sometimes they would even bite your toes, or just so they messed up like most of my work. So this is what got saved. This is what got left. And sometimes it would like rain, and you'd wake up to find that all your paperwork is messed up. So it's just it's very, it talks about like my dreams, my ambitions, like because I mean, even though I was on the streets, and some people look at people who are homeless and look at them like they don't have any dreams, or they just good for nothing. Or some people used to call us many words on the streets. I mean, some will just sell it straight into your eyes that you're just a waste of fresh air. But I still, though I was like being called all those names, but I still had a dream. I wanted to. The reason why I was like documenting my life on the streets is that I always believed that someday I will make it out of the streets. So I wanted to like tell my story to the world that, you know what, being like drug, I mean, experimenting with drug is a worst mistake anybody can make, because that's just fun, but you won't be the winner at the end, because drug addiction, I mean, like many people, I lost many friends on the streets. I mean, some due to overdosage, some like stabbing each other, fighting for a parking spot on the intersection. It's just like many like sad things that I saw on the street. So I just wanted to always like just write and tell. I was like writing like I was writing a letter to my unborn child, just being honest and just calling a spade a spade. And this is the result. This is what got saved, but at least it's some of my journey. And hopefully, when you read this book, you'll get to know about the work that we're doing. I mean, now I'm working with these amazing people. We've got it is like some of the players on our team, and we've got this kids readers club in town. That's it's like it's my, because I saw what books have done for me. I mean, because I never went to a rehab. I mean, where would a street kid be get money to go to rehab, because they're like very expensive these days. So it started like with me just reading like self-help books, and like taking like, I mean, books like your, maybe some of you know him, like Rick Warren. He wrote the book titled Purpose Driven Life. I mean, this book played a very, it's helped me a lot to like say, you know what, you know, this thing that after reading a motivate like a self-help book, you feel like you're energetic, like you just got recharged. It makes you feel like you can do it. So for me, I never had any fancy medication or maybe rehab. It was just books that helped me to know what, to believe that I can go a day without drugs, go 2 days a week and month, and now I've been clean for like some years, and I'm happy. I'm very satisfied with myself. So now what we're trying to achieve is I want to see more kids out there reading. So this is the reason why I started like a reading club. And now we've got a very nice team here. We're working, we collect books, we go to people's houses, we collect books, and we put them in our storage, and we go like now we've got like it's gonna be like a well booked day. We've planned like a very nice drive. We're gonna be like going to some other people that we're working with. Now it's not only us now. It's we've got other people that we're working with, like other small like community based projects. Young people who want to see people reading. So I'm all about reading because books have saved me from drug addiction. I mean, because I'm sure maybe you guys got some other questions too. Because uh, if I talk, once I start talking about books, it's just I can't stop. It just becomes like sort of verbal diarrhea. It just keeps on. When I talk books, I mean, you guys will tend to see it's already dark and I'm still talking books. So it's better if I can give you. I'm sure maybe you've got something that you want to talk about or ask. I'll be as honest as I can be to answer your question. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks.
Sorry, before we take questions, I think Philani downplayed his book. He says it's a very thin book, but I can promise you that there are multiple stories in that book. And for those of you that are scholars, and for those of you looking for research projects, you can do multiple ones out of that book. You could look at, there are a lot of themes about race that plays out. There's a lot of themes that play out about family and the importance of family. There are themes that play out in terms of your substance abuse. There are also themes that play out in terms of his passion and how his passion got him out of the situation that he was in. And often one of the challenges with drug rehabilitation, and Philani, I think you were fortunate not to go through that, okay? Because one of the challenges in drug rehabilitation is if you're taking away the person's substance, because the substance becomes the crutch, if you take that away, what do you replace it with? And in Philani's case, his absolute passion for books was that hook, the thing that pulled him out of those substances. And that is how your passion can also get you out of things. It's also a lesson for many people where our response to what's happening in our country, our response to what's happening in society is one of helplessness. Can't do it, okay? We blame structures, we blame people for the situation that we're in. And trust me, read the book. There's a whole list of people that Philani could blame for his substance abuse. A whole list, starting with your abusive father, with the family rejecting him, with friends not accepting him. There's a whole list of people that he could blame. But I did not in his book, for what in any place, pick up that he blamed anybody for where he was. In essence, he accepted that he got himself into the situation. But for me, the lesson was, despite all of this, he took control over his own life. He decided that there's a way out. And I think for those of us that become helpless and hopeless and we blame people, Philani is a lesson for how you can take control of your own life. And I think that's for me. So Philani, you downplayed your book. It's a thin book, but it's a very rich book with a lot of themes that I think a lot of people can benefit from. Yeah.
Philani, as a librarian, we do have a problem nowadays. Our students don't read enough. They don't take out all the books in the library that we can offer them. So, do you have advice for us? How can we get the young people to read nowadays? What hooked you to reading books? What can we do to make the children of today read again?
Oh, lovely lady. Thanks for your question. Yeah, for me, the thing is, there's an old saying that you can teach an old dog no tricks. But now the thing is, we are not dogs. We are human. We can be. You can. I mean, just get it. Make it a habit. this is why what we're trying to achieve is to get them to this, make it a habit while they're still young, to say, just grow up with this and knowing that it's a habit. And when they get to age where they can, like, they have their own like income, they can have like, they know that this portion of my income goes to books every month. I mean, it's just for you making it a habit. That's all, and you just grow with it. And the other thing is, what discourages people sometimes is this, the material. You have to always go for, when you still like maybe already a grown up, but you want to start, just go for books that are hard to put down, like books that will just grip you from the beginning. So that's because sometimes it can be discouraging for a non-reader when you're gonna read a book, and when you like in chapter 3, you find out that no, this is not good, or it's not my time, it's not my. So it's gonna be hard next time to decide to pick a book. So just go for the ones that you just, it's hard to put down. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Philani. Good afternoon, everybody. Philani, I've got a very personal question. What pushed you to the turning point where you said enough is enough?
I saw many, like, unfortunately, nowadays, like many, I still go to pass, like, take a taxi, let's take like a same route, like where I used to be, like from Empire Road to Greenside, because there's where I sell books nowadays. And I always see, it always breaks my heart, because when I see the people that I used to smoke with and live under the bridge with, when they're no longer there, it's either they're dead or in jail. It could be that only those two, unless if maybe they've decided to just admit that they've got a problem and go back home. But for me, I saw many people dying. Sometimes we go to sleep and we wake up, one of us is no longer breathing. And it's just, for me, I saw it and I was like, I could see what was happening. Even me, I was like emaciated, I was like thin, and I was stinking, and like not even caring about eating. And I just was like, this is not the life that I want to, this is not how I want to end. I just wanted to say, it's not too late. That is why I just decided to only just go for like self-help books that will just give me strength to just keep on going a day and a day and a day without drugs. Hope that answers your question, ma'am. Thanks.
Iswelito. Greeting my brother. Sure. I just want to sort of speak to what the lady has said, who works in the library. You know, sometimes we don't read because the books we want to read are either not available or hidden deliberately. You know, I can assure you those books are hidden currently as we speak. It's not something even to debate about. You hide those books just because you don't want us to read them. You know, look, we love to read, some of us, but when you come in the library, for example, this book is not available in the library. You know, you can't find this book now currently. The House of Hunger is the name of the book. So there are many books that we would love to read that are not available. So since you are engaged in a project, you know, creating the culture of reading in our communities, it is very important that the books that the children there read actually reflect who they are as well. They must be able to see themselves in those books, you know. They must speak to them. They must not be it must not be books about people from far away who cannot tell their story from their own perspective, you know? So, and I also want to break this stereotype to say that Black people don't like to read. Of course, why should we read Steve of Meyer in our libraries? Does not make sense. When you go to my community library, for example, you will find a lot of books of Steve of Meyer. I mean, those books don't relate to me. They don't appeal to me. Why should I read those books? You know? So in our libraries, it's very sad that we don't have books written by Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Chinweizi, Sheikh Anta Diop, Malcolm X, you know, his autobiography. There are many people that I can mention, you know, but their books are not there. So I think to you, my brother, my advice to you is that these kids that you are busy grooming, you know, trying to install the culture of reading within them, it's very important that the books you use are appealing to them. They must speak to them. Those kids must be able to see themselves, their story being told in those books. It is the only way we can change, you know, and actually empower people to read more. People will only read if they have something to read about. Currently, they don't have anything to read about because the books that they are reading don't relate to their daily lived experiences, you know. So, yeah, and I just like to say you are doing a great job, you know. You did good for yourself. You must continue to do that. We are also involved in this, trying to give books to kids out there. But it's important that we select the correct books, not just any random books. We can't just want people to read anything, you know. So that's what I wanted to say, basically.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sir.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Naila from the publishing company that actually published Philani's book. And the reason that actually made me stand up is your comments. I'd have to basically critique is number one, as working in the publishing industry, we are publishing books that cater to people in this room. We are working with the library to ensure that these authors do come here. We are working, we have an imprint called Blackbird Books, where Philani is being published. We have Unati being published. We have new fiction writers, new non-fiction writers that we are trying to get published, who are telling your story, my story. You need to go into these community libraries. Have you been there recently? Because we're working, am I cut off? Okay. We're working with these libraries to ensure that these books are being put in. We're trying to ensure that the prices of books do go down. More kids can read. And we're also encouraging that you guys as students here open, as publishing companies, that book clubs are open, so we can do you. So that you say the books that Steve Hofmeyr, all this, that's just one example. There are many books out there that cater to different people. You didn't find that one book at that one library, but library this is. Talk later. I want to know. We'll talk. We'll have a chat, because I think that is a huge issue and I'm willing to chat to you about it. But I just want to say that it's different authors now, and it's something that's being addressed. Cool.
Can I just comment on what's been going on? And I'm going to read out of Philani's book, and you can make of this what you want. I fell in love with books at the age of 12. My first book was a birthday gift entitled The Last White Parliament, written by Friedrich von Sales-Slabbert. I think the point I'm trying to make here, because I can see you're all dumbfounded. I hear the argument about we need books that we can relate to. First of all, we need to write those books. So for those of you that are young here and are saying, where are those books? I'm asking, why are you not writing? Because who is supposed to be doing this writing for you? Okay. And I would like to add to that, that you do not need a degree to write a book. Philani, you don't even have grade 12. Yeah. And Philani wrote a book. So you don't need to be a professor or a doctor or an academic to write a book. Anybody can write a book. The next point I want to make about reading is we don't always just read what we agree with. What shapes our minds is reading the stuff that we don't agree with, because that brings us a critical view to the world. So when you read the things that you can identify with and the things that you can't identify with. So it's not always just engaging with what you're interested in. It's often pushing yourself and reading the things that you are not interested in, and pushing yourself the whole time to think about the world, to think about society. And you can only do that if you know all the sides of the story. So the argument that we need books that we can identify with, and that's why I read this passage from Philani's book. The first book that he wrote, and read what Philani suffered during the apartheid years, or as a result of the apartheid. He went through terrible times because of that. Yet the first book that he read, the one that he didn't even want to read it was a gift, was on the last white parliament. Okay, the very last book that he should have read, if we were going about, we only read that we identify with. It's a bland book, and Philani says in his book, he struggled with the English, okay, and he read with understanding, or he forced himself to read with understanding. And it's because he exposed himself to these kind of things that he is where he is today. The other one, on a lighter note, and this is very worrying, is that Philani says in his book that when he sold these books to the academics and the students who went to Wits, he would ask them, do you know who Socrates is? Do you know who Plato is? And shockingly, not one of those academics knew who it was. Philani, coming from rural KwaZulu-Natal, knew who Socrates and Plato was. And he'd read their works. And I would argue that what he read shaped him to be the person that he is today.
Isolate. Well, I think mine is to say that in as much as I agree with you, my sister, and I commend you for what you're doing, we must also be cognizant of the fact that you might be just one of the few people that actually do that, you know? So we thank you for that, but also you must consider the fact that there aren't as many you out there. Also, to the say over there, he's talking about us being writers, right? So which is fine. I mean, I agree, we should be writers. But at the same time, I feel like for one to be a writer, you need to engage in material and you need to read. So if that's not available to you, you won't necessarily be a good writer. For anyone to be a good writer, you need to actually read a lot, right? And what my brother was actually saying here is that, I mean, we're gonna take it to another level because how he said it was a bit more subtle. So I'm just gonna put it out there. As I feel like as a young person that grew up in Soweto, I was not necessarily exposed to what I'm exposed to right now because I did not necessarily have the power to expose myself to that. So, okay, fine, let's read about everything, right? Because that's what we wanna do. You wanna be knowledgeable on across all board. But at the same time, I feel like those books, your Bikos, your Sobukwe's, we need to read about such. Those are really important for a black body. I don't know about others, but I do know that for myself,